aspect, which is the power of guidance. So today, I'm going to specifically do two things. One is I'm going to talk about um, Vyasdev's personal situation. And then I'm going to talk about Narad Muni's guidance, expert guidance. So these are the two things that we're going to be talking about. Um, Sanjay, you're also recording, right? So the word Vyasa is a very interesting word. I'm going to spend some time now discussing and meditating on Vyasa. So last time when we ended, we saw that Vyasadeva had written so much and yet he was dissatisfied. He wrote the four Vedas, he wrote the 108 Upanishads, he wrote the 18 Puranas, he wrote the Mahabharata, he wrote the Vedanta Sutra, and yet he was feeling incomplete. And Vyasa was not able to understand why he's feeling incomplete. So at that point in time, in that juncture, Narad Muni comes into the life of Vyasadeva. So the word Vyasa, when he was born, when Vyasa was born, he was dark, like Kajal, like dark. And because he was born dark, his name was Krishna. When he was born, the name given to him was Krishna. Krishna means what? Black one. So Vyas, originally his name was not Vyas. His name was Krishna. And because he was born in an island, he was called Dvaipayana. The word Dvaipayana comes from the word Dvipa. So Dvipa means island. So the one that is born in an island is called Dvaipayana. So his name was Krishna Dvaipayana. The dark one born in an island. That was his name. Interesting name to have. And interestingly, the moment he was born, he became 16-year-old directly. So, such children are so nice, isn't it? No trouble to parents at all, The first 16 years itself is so troublesome, isn't it? And look at these children, not just Vyas. Shukadeva Goswami, he was born straight 16 years. Draupadi, born straight 16 years. Vamana Dev, born straight 16 years. Kapila Dev, born straight 16 years. Such good children don't exist anymore and don't get born anymore. Yeah, all of us are troublesome children who trouble like anything till we become 16. And then the main trouble starts. So, why was he called Vedavyas? The word Vyasa comes from the word Vishal, which means expansion or multiplying. So, in the beginning of creation, there was only one Veda, which was the Rig Veda. And all the people in the beginning of creation, they were all Shrutidhar. They could hear and remember forever. The Vyasdev divided the Vedas into 4 parts. So, Vyasa was an incarnation of the knowledge of the Lord. If the Lord's knowledge had an incarnation, that is called Vyasa. That person is called Vyasa. So Vyasa means the one who expands. You give him something small, he can expand into something big. All engineering students are technically Vyasa. Because they know only this much, but they can expand it like anything. So Vyasa is the one who is expert in expanding. And he is the one who originated Devanagari script also. The Sanskrit script that we all read in, originated by Vyasadeva. And Vyasa has another name. He's also called Vinaya Vyas. He's called Vinaya Vyas means, the word Vinaya means humility. Humble person, basically. And why is he called Vinaya Vyas? He's called Vinaya Vyas because he is so humble. He has written so much, but nowhere in any of his books, his name is there that I wrote it. Therefore, he's called as Vinaya Vyas. And after writing so much literature, after putting in so much effort, he was evaluating his effort. And when he evaluated his effort, he realized he was just wanting to know whether whatever I did, so much effort of putting in so much of intelligence and energy in writing these scriptures, was it worth it? So whenever you put an effort, after some point you have to stop and evaluate whether what I did was worth it or not, basically. So this contemplation gives you some clarity. So Vyasdev, he was feeling very dissatisfied when he evaluated, and he began to rethink and re-evaluate his direction. So whenever you feel dissatisfied, dissatisfaction can help you harness things for a greater good. So dissatisfaction is an indicator that you have to go a little deeper in life. So Vyasa felt, I have missed something, therefore I'm not happy. Therefore I'm not feeling ananda. For great people, the interesting thing about great people is that bad times are good times. For great people, good times are good times. But for great people, bad times are also good times. Because they go deeper into their lives' most important questions during bad times in life. You know, for ordinary people, bad times are bad times because they hover around superficial things in life. So if an ordinary person comes across bad times in life, it is actually bad time. But if a great person comes across bad time in life, that person will come out of it even greater because he will go deeper in questioning his own life, questioning his own purpose, and getting more clarity. So here, Vyas has another very interesting, meaning also. In Vedic mathematics, geometry, um, the diameter that goes through the center of the circle is called Vyas in Vedic mathematics. So it's very interesting. Why is the diameter that goes through the center of the circle called Vyas? So what is the meaning of Vyas in this context? So Vyas means that which divides the circle equally is called Vyas. So the Vyas goes through the center of the circle. So let's consider the entire gamut of all knowledge to be a big circle. Okay. And that which goes through the center of the circle is Vyas. This side of the diameter, this side of the circle, one semicircle is the material knowledge, and another semicircle is spiritual knowledge. And Vyas goes straight in between. And that line that goes straight in between, which joins the material knowledge and spiritual knowledge, is Krishna. And therefore, Vyas is the person who can show us the connection between material and spiritual knowledge. And he passes through both. And as long as Krishna is in the center, nothing is material, isn't it? As long as anything is connected to Krishna, it's not material at all. So all the knowledge that Vyasa has written in the Vedas, some of it may seem to be material. But if you find a connection to Krishna, it is not material at all. And that's the way Veda Vyasa is. And therefore, the interesting part of a circle is if the circle center is missed, it's not proper, then the entire circle becomes messy, isn't it? I don't know if you all remember using a compass and drawing, the circle. If that little dot goes messy here and there, the circle cannot be right. So whenever you find dissatisfaction in life, something is wrong in the center. That's what it means. So Vyas here was feeling great dissatisfaction in his life. So the point was something is missing in the center. He realized that. He realized that. But he also realized, I need help to figure this out. And therefore, fortunately for him, at that exact point in time, Narad Muni comes. Narad Muni comes when Vyas is most despondent. When a disciple is most despondent, at that point in time, the intervention of the guru is very important. The intervention of the teacher is very important. Because not all questions you can figure it out with your own intelligence. This is Vyas. If he, if he is not able to figure out, during the difficult times in his life, what about you and me? So, the idea is that whenever, um, whenever we are the whole purpose of devotee association, the whole purpose of having association of sadhus, the whole purpose of having association of devotees is that we need to go deep into it, basically. So there are two types of relationships that we can have. One is selfish relationships, and there are selfless relationships. In the association of devotees, when we come, we should search for selfless relationships. Selfless relationships means to think what is best for the other person. So Narad Vyas discussion here is based on that type of relationship which is selfless. Narad Muni is coming into Vyasdev's life at this point in time, not because Vyas needs help, but because he feels compassionate towards Vyasdev and wants to help him. And he arrives at that point in time. So, why are both types of relationships important? Our relationship with Krishna is important, but our relationship with devotees also is equally important. Why both are important? The interesting thing is that our relationship with Krishna is a vertical relationship. That means we are here, Krishna is there. So we need to develop a connection, right? So it's vertical, upwards connection. But for us to make that upward connection, we also need horizontal connection with devotees. So when we have connection with devotees, these horizontal relationships are nice. It will help us develop the upward relationship, vertical relationships also nicely. But if our horizontal relationships are not so nice, our vertical relationship also will not be so nice. And therefore, we need to focus on both. So Narad Muni is despondent. His vertical relationship with Krishna is somewhere shaky, not smooth. The circle is, unfocused. And therefore, Narad Muni comes in and that's the horizontal relationship phase. And he helps sort out Vyasdev's relationship with Krishna. The first thing Narad Muni does, as soon as he walks in, he asks Vyasdev two questions. So let us recite the questions of Narad Muni. The first question, Narad Muni. Narada Uvacha Parasarya Mahabhaga Bhavata Kachid Atmana Paritushyati Sharira Atma Manasa Evava. So Narad Muni comes in and he asks Vyasdev, he addresses Vyasdev as a son of Parashara. Parashara Muni is a great sage. And Vyasdev is son of Parashara and Satyavati. So he asks him, are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization? So now here, Narad Muni gives a hint at Vyasdev's problem. See, the interesting thing about great souls in Narad Muni, they don't beat around the bush. You know, many times when we are trying to help people with their problem, we beat around the bush so much because we don't know the exact problem only. You know, I mean, you go to any psychiatrist, any psychologist, they beat around the bush so much because they just don't know what the problem is only. Look at Narad Muni here. Exact question, specifically. He's asking, and he's also hinting, he's telling Vyasadeva, oh son of Parashara. He's saying, you are the son of such a great sage like Parashara. That means you have such a great parentage, which should not have given any cause for despondency in Vyasdev. And the second thing is that if you are son of a great father, you should not identify with the body as a self. You should be going higher, basically. And then Narad Muni says, this is a very interesting verse. Jijnasitam aditam cha brahma yattat sanatanam Tatapi sochasi atmanam akritartha iva prabho. So here he's saying you have fully delineated the subjects of impersonal Brahman as well as knowledge derived therefrom. In spite of that, why are you so despondent, my dear Prabhu? He tells him. See, there are two things Narad Muni is specifically asking here. Whatever I read seems very complicated. So I'll tell you in very simple words what Narad Muni is trying to say. He's asking Vyasadeva two questions. Are you satisfied with externals? And second, what is missing in spite of so much achievement? These are the two questions Narad Muni is asking. And he is saying, Prabhu. He is saying, my dear Prabhu. The word Prabhu is a sarcastic word here, by the way. He is asking, Narad Muni is asking him, yes. Are you satisfied with the externals? And what is missing in spite of so much achievements? These two questions are there in the notes also. To turn the notes around. So, Narad Muni is telling him, Prabhu. He's asking him, my dear Prabhu. He's essentially saying, you are supposed to be Prabhu. But are you behaving like Prabhu? Are you understanding like Prabhu? Is your, are you able to behave, or rather, are you able to emulate what Parashar, your great ancestry, and what you are supposed to be established at? So Narad Muni, when he says this, it's amazing what Vyas does. Vyasdev, he tells Narad Muni, he says, whatever you have said is perfectly correct. And despite whatever you have said, I am not pacified only. And therefore, I want you to tell me what is the root of my dissatisfaction. And he says, you are a man of unlimited knowledge. You are almost like God, so transcendental and so powerful. And therefore, you can travel anywhere and everywhere. So he says, please, therefore, find deficiency in me. He tells him. And he's using Nunam Alam Vichikshaya. He's saying, my dear master, my dear teacher, find deficiency in me. It's not easy to say that, right? I mean, and that too for someone who is Vyas. Someone who is so expert in expanding, someone who's written practically every scripture in the world. He's telling his teacher, find deficiency in me, find faults in me. I don't know if we will ever say that. Because when somebody actually finds fault in you, we won't be able to handle it. So if you can't handle it, better not ask only. So Vyasdev is so humble. One time, the Vindhya mountains, was feeling very proud. Vindhya, so if you understand what Vindhya mountains are, Vindhya actually divides India into two parts. It's right in the center of the country, And at a particular point in time in history, the Vindhya mountains was growing. And it was competing with the Himalayas in height. So the Vindhya was growing and growing and growing and growing. Imagine if Vindhya grows as high as the Himalayas, what will happen to most of India? Half of the country will literally become ice, isn't it? And not just competing with the Himalayas. Vindhya wanted to compete with Mount Meru. He at some point, he's talking to the sun god and addressing the sun god, telling him, I am going to become taller than Mount Meru very soon. Better you start orbiting around me. The sun god, he got upset. He said, what nonsense? What kind of a person is this? And he said, it is not your adhikar to grow up like this. Who told you to grow like this? And all the gods together went to Agastya, who was the guru of India. And they went and told Agastya, your disciple is growing too fast. So the idea of growing, see, many times we don't realize that we are not qualified for that growth. See, apparently on an external level, we seem to be growing very fast. But internally, are we growing? Externally, we are growing too fast. But internally, we're still so immature kids, still so egoistic in our mindsets, isn't it? So Vindhya was growing externally, becoming famous, becoming powerful, becoming really successful. But internally, he has not grown. Digest that success. This is the flip side of YouTube, Instagram today. People are growing 10 million followers. Internally, they've not grown to handle 10 million followers, right? Externally, you've grown with so much, but internally, you can't even handle 10 followers. What is got 10 million followers, isn't it? So that difference between the two is what Vindhya is experiencing here. Agastya, the guru of India, he comes to meet Vindhya. So all the gods come to Agastya and tell him, look at your disciple, look at your chela, what is he doing? Deal with him, please. So Agastya goes and meets Vindhya. And as soon as Vindhya sees Agastya, he bends down and offers obeisances to Agastya Muni. Agastya Muni tells him, stay like this only. I'll come back in some time. Agastya goes to the south, never comes back. That's why Vindhya is still lying down. He's still bent, hoping someday Agastya will come and I can stand up. The spiritual master has his own way of helping us flatten our ego, has his own way of helping us deal with our, immaturity. Unfortunately, he will not do it unless you go and ask him for it. Unless, somebody says, please help me. So look at Vyasadeva here. He is such a powerful person. I mean, what height he is in terms of India, if you can compare, Vyasadeva is on another level only. But yet, he's telling his guru, please find faults in me. So if we have to compare our own story with Vyasadeva's story, we probably have to at least start of asking, please find some faults in me so that I can improve. I'm not sure whether we'll actually be able to ask, but we can at least start thinking in that direction. So Narad Muni, he looks at Vyasadeva and starts analyzing the situation of Vyasadeva. Narada Uvacha Bhavata Nudita Prayam Yasho Bhagavato Malam Yenaiva na Tushyeta Manyeta Darshanam Kilam. Narad Muni said, you have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That philosophy, which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord, is considered worthless. So the Guru comes and questions the root of your belief systems. So Narad Muni's analysis was very simple. He said his conclusion was two things. After analyzing all the work of Vyasadeva and the dissatisfaction of Vyasadeva, Narad Muni's conclusion was two things. He said, first, you have not emphasized deeper things. And second, you have overemphasized superficial things. Isn't this the problem with all of us? So first thing is, we have not emphasized deeper things. Look at our own life. I don't know how many of you all here are feeling dissatisfied in life. Can anyone put up your hand? You're feeling dissatisfied in life? Please put up your hand. If you're all feeling dissatisfied in life, those who are online and offline, ask yourself this simple question. What have I prioritized in life? So essentially, Narad Muni's analysis of any dissatisfaction in this world is simple. First, you have not emphasized deeper things in life. And second, you have overemphasized superficial things in life. How much overemphasis is being given to all the superficial things in life? And how much emphasis is given to the deeper things in life? That's all. So this is the essence of what Narada Muni's conclusion was and his analysis was. And let me help you understand this statement of Narada Muni, this analysis of Narada Muni, in a much deeper way. Okay? And this is fantastic. You will love this. Narada, it sits straight. The word mala means impure, and the word amala means pure. So here he is saying Bhagavata Yasha means pure glorification of Krishna is not done. And the Vyasa may say, what are you saying? You're saying I have not glorified Krishna purely? I have written Garga Samhita, in which Krishna stories are there. He might say that I have written Padma Puran, in which there are so many pastimes of the Lord. But Narada's point is, yes, you may have written some points about Krishna and some points about Vishnu in your scriptures. But Narada said, have you written anything about the gopis, who are the best of devotees of Krishna? And Narada Muni's point is simple. Yashmin tushte jagat tushtam. When if Krishna is happy, the world is happy. If Krishna is not happy, the world is not happy. As simple as that. Usually, when marriages happen, especially in the scriptures, you'll find that the name of the bride is given to the marriage. Like, say, for example, Sita Kalyanam, Rukmini Kalyanam, So, like this, the name of the woman, the bride, is given to that marriage. But in Balaji, Tirupati Balaji, it is said Srinivas Kalyanam. The name of the groom is given to the marriage. Okay. Because it's a special type of marriage. And in that marriage, there were 33 crore demigods came to attend the marriage. And in that marriage, imagine what a crowd. Talking about Ambani marriage and all that, 33 crore demigods came to attend Srinivas Kalyanam, basically. And after that marriage, when it was time for prasadam, so it is said Agni was the chief cook. And at that point in time, all the rivers were used as cooking vessels to cook the feast for that marriage, basically. And so much prasad was cooked. But first, Lord Srinivas was given prasad, given to eat the food. And when Lord Srinivas ate, to his full satisfaction, everyone there felt full. They didn't have to eat only. They just felt full just because, Srinivas ate. That's all. They didn't have to eat at all. On the other hand, so that means if you give satisfaction to the Lord, everybody feels satisfied. But if you give pain to the Lord, everybody feels pain. One time in Vrindavan, there was one very elderly gopi who gave her cows grass. Along with the grass, she gave the cows cardamom, elaichi, so that that grass gets the flavor, and the milk that comes out from the cow will be elaichi flavored milk. What a forward thinking, So this old lady, she was giving this gopi, she was giving this cow, her cow, elaichi flavored milk, grass, basically. And Krishna came to know that in this house, elaichi flavored milk is there, And Krishna, obviously, he got excited, So he went over there to her house. And, when nobody was there, he somehow managed to enter in. And he began to drink the elaichi flavored milk. And this elderly gopi got so angry, she came running and she hit Krishna with a stick. And the most amazing thing was when she hit Krishna with a stick, Krishna felt the pain, but suddenly everyone in the world, including this gopi, felt the same pain. So she's hitting Krishna's back, suddenly she's feeling the hit on her back, So Vyasadeva doesn't feel happy because Krishna doesn't feel happy. Vyasa is feeling dissatisfied with after all the writing because Krishna is dissatisfied after all the writing. And why Krishna doesn't feel happy? Because the gopis were such exalted devotees who are so dear to his heart, they are not glorified in any of his writings. So what's the point in writing millions of verses if the Vrajvasis are not glorified? And that's the whole mood, you know. So Narad Muni is telling, you have not sufficiently glorified the Lord, which essentially means he is talking specifically about the Vrajvasis of Vrindavan. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks so many verses to Arjuna, right? And now the context of the Bhagavad Gita is in the middle of a battlefield, isn't it? This is in Kurukshetra, very, very far away from Vrindavan, very, very away, far away from the mood of Vrindavan also. This is a serious battle about property, isn't it? And in the middle of the battle, Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita. And in the middle of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks one verse. And it's a very interesting verse because the Acharyas give a very interesting purport to that verse. So Krishna is saying, Isha Brahmi Stitha Partha Nainam Prapya. So he's saying, so in this particular verse, Krishna is saying, this is the second, this is, I think, in the second chapter of the Gita. Anyway, so in this verse, Krishna uses the word Isha Brahmi Stitha. And the Acharyas are suddenly surprised. So usually, the word Brahmi Stitha, you know, here is referring to the idea of Brahman, the Supreme Lord, which is Brahman, you know, who is also called the Supreme Brahman, basically. He is usually a masculine. You know, the scriptures always talk about the Supreme Lord as a masculine person, basically. So, in this particular verse, why is Krishna suddenly using the word Brahmi Sthita, which is feminine, basically? Does it mean that Krishna made a mistake in the tense? Does Krishna, you know, has Krishna made a mistake in the grammar, basically? The answer is no. Here, Krishna is referring to Radha in the middle of a conversation, middle of a serious Bhagavad Gita conversation. Krishna is suddenly remembering Radha. And instead of saying Brahman, he's saying Brahmi. So the idea is that Krishna is mad about Vrindavan. He is mad about the Vrajvasis in Vrindavan. And he is constantly absorbed in Vrindavan. And here is Vyasadeva writing about Krishna, but he has not mentioned one single word about the gopis of Vrindavan, about the Vrajvasis who are so dear to him. And Krishna is feeling bad. And because Krishna is feeling bad, that dissatisfaction of Krishna has gone into Vyasadeva's heart. And he is feeling dissatisfied. So, what is Srimad Bhagavatam? The word Bhagavatam, we understand. It is the story of the Supreme Lord. It is about the Supreme Lord, etc. But what is Srimad? Mad, the word mad means madness, ecstasy, bliss. That's what the word mad means. Honey, right? And the word Srimad means the ecstasy of Radharani. So what is Bhagavatam? Bhagavatam is the ecstasy of Radha, of Shri. So if I have written all the scriptures in the world, but you have not written anything about Shri, about Radha, so where is Krishna going to be happy? So Narad Muni's solution, what he's telling to Vyasadeva is compile a literature that glorifies the Vrajavasis sufficiently. That's all. And Narad Muni is telling Vyasadeva what type of literature to compile. And this is a very beautiful verse where he's giving that instruction. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin prati shlokam abadvati api namani anantasya yasho ankitani yat shrinvanti gayanti grananti sadava. He's saying, on the other hand, that literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, pastimes of the Lord, of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words, directed toward bringing a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. This particular translation is one of the most brilliant translations of Srila Prabhupada. Look at every word is chosen so powerfully. So Narad Muni essentially is telling Vyasadeva, don't worry about the nature of writing from an external point of view. He's saying you have composed fantastic verses, the Rig Veda and the Yajur Veda and Sama Veda and all that. You have composed fantastic verses, the Puranas and Upanishads. You must be really proud of all the composition. But in this particular work that you're going to do now, which I'm telling you to do, don't bother about the nature of the poetry. Don't bother about the nature of the externals of how it looks, basically. The main thing is that it must glorify the Lord. And it must create a revolution in the hearts of society, of everyone in society. Janataga Viplavo, he says. And even if every word in that composition has faults, he's saying, Prati Shlokam Abadvatapi. Every shloka, Prati Shlokam Abadvati. Every single shloka, even if it has faults, grammatical faults, errors in composition, hundreds of faults it has, he is saying, doesn't matter. Only thing, make sure, Namani, that means the name of the Lord is glorified, Yasha, the fame of the Lord is glorified, of whom? Anantasya, of the Supreme Lord. And Ankitaniyat, that means in every single word of the Srimad Bhagavatam, what you're going to compose now, Ankitaniyat means you must stamp the name of the Lord and the fame of the Lord. Every single verse of the Bhagavatam must be stamped with the glory of the Supreme Lord. And then he says, if you do this, sadhus, the great souls, Shrinvanti, they will hear it happily. Gayanti, they will sing it. Grinanti, they will accept it wholeheartedly. And he says, this is my suggestion to you. So Narad Muni has given a solution to Vyasadeva. And he is emphasizing, this is the only thing you must write on. You have written Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha a lot. You have written about, all the 4 Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, religious pursuits, economic pursuits, sense pursuits, and pursuits for liberation. Forget that. In this text, only focus on glorifying the Lord and only focus on appreciating the devotees of the Lord sufficiently. And not sufficiently means what? It's not that in a few verses here and there we should have it. He's saying every verse, Ankitaniyat, in every single verse you should find. And therefore, if you read the Bhagavatam, you pick up any verse of the 18,000 verses of the Bhagavatam, the same conclusion will be there. Same conclusion will be there. But it's all obviously told in so many different ways, basically. And then Narad Muni, he talks about his personal conviction. Idam hi pumsas tapasa shutasya va swishtasya suktasya cha buddhi dattayo avicchato artha kavibir niropito yad uttama shloka gunanuvarnanam. He says, learned circles have positively concluded that the infallible purpose of advancement of knowledge, namely austerities, the study of the Vedas, sacrifice, chanting of hymns, charity, culminates in the transcendental descriptions of the Lord, who is defined with chosen poetry. Essentially, what he's trying to say is that everything you do in life, whether it is studying the scriptures, doing austerities, giving charity, performing sacrifices, chanting of prayers, chanting of the holy names, every single activity that you do, it ultimately culminates in descriptions of the Lord. It ultimately culminates in pleasing the Supreme Lord. So instead of going like this, Narada Muni is saying, go like this. Instead of telling, do like this, do dharma, artha, kama, moksha, do sacrifices, do charity. Instead of telling all this, tell people directly, eat Baba. Why are you telling them to do like this? So what Narada Muni is saying is that in all the literature that you have been doing, you're telling them like this. Same thing. In this literature, tell them like this. Don't beat around the bush in this one. Don't mess up in this one. Don't, go anywhere except in the essence. In March 2004, a very interesting thing happened in ancient temple of Lord Shiva. This is known as Kapileshwar Mahadev. This is in Bhubaneswar in Orissa. So in this temple in Orissa, there's for 22 years, they have been doing Bhagavad Katha every year for 9 days. At a particular time, they do every year 9-day Bhagavad Katha. So in 2004, while they were just about to begin Bhagavad Katha, one huge bull walked in. Can you imagine? It's like a pandal type of thing, open. One big bull walked in. So everybody obviously were bewildered, and that is not a normal Buddha, like an extraordinary huge bull. So everybody were trying to push it out, and imagine if a bull walks into the Bhagavad here, it's strange, right? Straight it walked in the middle of the Bhagavad Katha, and they tried to throw water on it, tried to push it, tried to hit it, nothing. It didn't move at all. It went and sat there in Bhagavad Gita. Full Bhagavad it heard that day. After the Bhagavad got over, it got up, quietly walked out. Next day, exactly same time it walked in. Sat, heard full Bhagavad Gita, walked out. 9 days, every single day it walked in. People were amazed. This bull became like a celebrity, Everybody only talking about bull. They don't not nobody talk about Bhagavad Gita, what happened, The bull came, And the most amazing thing was, next year, again on the same date it came to attend Bhagavad Gita. Every single year after that, bull has been coming to attend Bhagavad Gita exactly for those 9 days. Quietly hearing full Bhagavad Gita and walking out. So, of course, you might say, we are also hearing Bhagavad Gita, But there's a big difference. That's what we're going to discuss, basically, So, there was this story of Gokarna who recited the entire Bhagavatam for the benefit of his brother, His brother had become a ghost, Dundubi. Yeah. I think Dundukari is name, not Dundubi, sorry. I got into the Ramayana mode surrounding, So this Dundukari, he became a ghost. His brother became a ghost. And to liberate his brother, Gokarna said, I'm going to recite full Bhagavatam. So for 7 days, he recited complete Bhagavatam. And while Gokarna was reciting Bhagavatam, there were hundreds of people sitting there in the assembly, On the 7th day, as soon as the Bhagavad Gita was over, the ghost got liberated. The ghost had told Gokarna that if I am getting liberated, I'll crack a twig and go. You should know that I'm getting liberated. So on the 7th day, as soon as Bhagavad Gita was over, he cracked the twig and he said, he got liberated actually. So the question was, so many people attended Bhagavatam, only ghosts got liberated. Everybody else sitting there only, Nobody's going anywhere. No sign of liberation anywhere, So Gokarna became very inquisitive. So Gokarna's guru was Suryadev. So he asked Suryadev that everybody listened, but only Dundukari got liberation. How? The answer that Suryadev gave is very interesting for all of us to understand. Suryadev replied, you recited for everybody's benefit and everyone listened. So the whole thing doesn't depend on who's speaking. but it depends on who is hearing. And everybody hears. So the Shravanam that is done by everybody is equal. But the Mananam that is done by everybody is not equal. So most of us, we hear and we nod our head like the bull, Yes, yes, they've heard. But how much are we digesting it? How much are we contemplating on what we heard? And that makes all the difference. So the idea is that when we hear, we bring in all our upbringing, we bring in our culture, we bring in the context in which we are living. So many things are also there while we're hearing, right? So as I'm telling something, you are relating to something else only. So I'm talking at one level, but you're hearing at another level, basically. So Suryadev says, Shravanam is equally done by everybody, but Mananam is not equally done by everybody. Shravanam should ideally lead to Mananam. And only by Mananam can you reach Vaikuntha. Only by Mananam can you actually reach the spiritual world. So ideally what we should be doing is when we hear the Bhagavatam, we should hear it attentively. Shravanam should be very good. But at the same time, we should contemplate on it later. And that's the reason I'm giving all notes. So that you can go back and think about what we read, what we heard, what we discussed. And I mean, please feel free to fill up these pages, the remaining spaces that are there with whatever you want to. And you can fill up more notebooks, because the ability, only by hearing, the transformation won't happen. There are so many people who go to so many Bhagavad Gathas, but the transformation doesn't happen simply by hearing. That's the one level. But the deeper level is you go back and discuss it. Go back and contemplate on it. Go back and share it with somebody. Go back and talk about it. So the idea is that Bhagavatam should be a part of our life. It should be it should be an eternal part of our life. And that's when the Bhagavatam goes really deep into our souls. And it really benefits us to the deepest level. The Narad Muni, when he tells all this, Vyasdev is amazed. He's like really amazed. And then Narad Muni goes ahead and talks about his own life. See, Narada is a great teacher. And being a great teacher, he is not only giving theory, he is telling practical. He is not only telling, I am telling you to do it, but I am doing something else. He is telling Vyas to do it and is giving example from his life to prove that I have also done this only. And this only has benefited me, what I am telling you to do. And Narada Muni tells his whole story. And it's amazing. He tells it in such a, open manner. So Narada Muni, he talks about his story as 5 levels. So I shared with you all this 5 points that are there in this in the notes. But if you want to make it even easier for you to remember the acronym QUEST. QUEST. So the formula of Narad Muni to perfect your life is QUEST. QUEST. You should, if you want to have perfection, you should have a quest for perfection. So the question is, what is the quest for perfection? So Narad Muni tells through his story, what are the 5 things that you need to perfect your life? The first thing Narad Muni says, you need guides. Narad Muni is a guide for Vyasdev, but Narad Muni is saying, I also have a guide. For you to be a guru to somebody, you also have to have a guru. Nowadays, people want to be guru to others, but I have no guru. And they proudly say also, I have no guru. That's the saddest thing. If you say, I don't have a guru, no hope for you, literally. Because if your mind is your guru, you had it. So Narad Muni is telling Vyasdev, but he's telling about his own story. First thing, you need guides. So Narad Muni says that he talks about his previous life. He talks about how he became Narada. So he says, in the last millennium, I was born as a son of a maid servant. And this maid servant, this lady was working in different people's houses. But in one particular time during the Chaturmas period, there was a group of Brahmanas, sadhus, that came and stayed in one place for 4 months, the Chaturmas. And in this period, this maid servant, Narad Muni's mother, was a servant in these people's ashram. She was taking care of the cleaning and all that, basically. And um, Narad Muni, he was a small child. He was a 5-year-old child at that time. He got an opportunity to serve these Bhaktivedantas, to serve these great souls. And he says, so these great souls were so merciful on me. And he said, I also had some qualities which helped me connect with these great souls. And what are the qualities Narada Muni talks about himself? He says, I was self-controlled. He said, I had no attachment to sports. Just after the World Cup, saying this is interesting. So he says, even though I was a boy, I was not interested in, these frivolous sports. I was not naughty and I didn't speak more than required. Look at these, points. And he says, one time, only once, with their permission, I ate their remnants. I ate their Mahaprasad, Narada Muni says. And the moment I ate their Mahaprasad, the remnants of these transcendentalists, my heart became purified and I became very attracted to spirituality. And he says, by the mercy of these Vedantas, I became attracted naturally to Krishna. And my taste for hearing Krishna increased step by step. And he said, I was very attached to these sages. I was gentle in my behavior. And slowly, with the association of these Bhaktivedantas, I started getting rid of all the anarthas. So then he says, so Narada Muni, then he says, so as he's telling about, his relationship with the Bhaktivedantas and how his heart is getting purified, Vyasdev wanted to know, so 4 months you got association of these Bhaktivedantas. What happened after 4 months? They left. So Vyasdev's, Narada Muni tells Vyasdev that after the 4 months, something different happened. So Vyasdev asks him, first, what happened after the 4 months? And second thing, how did you become Narada? How did you get this body? Because Narada Muni's body is not an ordinary body. It's a celestial body, right? So he's saying in the previous life, I was son of a maid servant. So from a son of a maid servant, how did he become Narada Muni? So Vyasdev wanted to know. And then Vyasdev, Narada Muni tells him, the second step that is needed for you to perfect your life. The first step is that you need guides, right? Quest for knowledge comes when you have a guide in your life, when you have guides in your life. The second thing that happened in Narada Muni's life is a calamity struck. So most people, they don't have an urgency for practicing spiritual life. Everything else is urgent. Tax filing is urgent. Everything else is very, very urgent. Earning money is very urgent. But spiritual life, what is the hurry? I am not so old as yet. I have a lot of time. No urgency. So therefore, time to time, Krishna creates a reason for us to develop some urgency. And that's why calamities come in our life. Calamities come in our life just to shake us up, just to make us realize there is something more than all the frivolous things you're searching for. And all the frivolous things you're searching for is not going to give you satisfaction in life. So therefore, little calamities keep coming in our lives. Unfortunately, when that calamity comes, we become very serious. And as soon as the calamity goes, our seriousness also goes along with it. So Narada Muni is telling him, after the guides went, then a calamity struck in my life. He says, I was the only son of my mother. And she was not just a simple woman, but she was a maid servant. And because I was her only offspring, only son, she pampered me like anything, showered so much love on me. And she wanted to take so much care of me. But once my mother went out in the night to milk a cow. and she got bitten by a snake. And Narad Muni says, influenced by supreme time, the snake bit her. So the moment you feel that there is an emergency coming to your life, there is an urgency, there's a problem, there's a calamity coming to your life, that is the time to actually start thinking from a higher point of view. The moment the mother was bitten by the snake and his mother died, you know what Narad Muni starts thinking? Narad Muni thinks, this calamity is not in my hand, right? It is the snake of time took away my mother. And he said, I want to look at this calamity as a mercy of the Lord. This is an opportunity for me to become very serious in what I have learned from the Bhaktivedantas. So he decided to do what is known as exploration. So first is guidance. So Q. I don't know how to put that Q with guide, but you can say quest for guidance, you know. So quest for guidance, basically. The second U is urgency for your spiritual life. So urgency comes with an emergency, you know. If there's no emergency, no urgency. So urgency comes with an emergency. Third, E stands for exploration. Exploration means you need to take some risks in life. So he says, I took this as a special mercy of the Lord, who is always desirous of doing welfare for the devotees. And so thinking, I went to the north. He went alone to follow the guidance of the devotees. Imagine a 5-year-old boy deciding to go to the north alone. You know the problem with most people who take up spirituality? They are risk averse. You tell someone, chant one round, they'll say, you know, is this the right path for me? Right now, you have no path only, you know. Might as well take this path, na? No, they will analyze that so much. Is this the right? Somebody is giving you some path. At least try. Take some risk at least in life, you know. What risk you have to take to chant the holy name? No risk only. But they find that also very risky, you know. And especially you tell them chant 16 rounds, they find it very, very risky. Because 2 hours of social media time is going to go off mind, you know. So people are risk averse. And Narad Muni in this context is saying, I took risk. 5-year-old boy going to the north. Now, we cannot take such kind of risks. But let us at least take some calculated risk. Let us at least take some risk in life, you know, to grow in our spiritual journeys, isn't it? So Narad Muni, he went out and he decided to follow the inspiration of the Bhaktivedantas. And the fourth thing that happened, so quest for guidance. Second is urgency, which comes from an emergency. Third is exploration, you know, which means taking risks in your spiritual journey. And the fourth is study, which means that our life has to be that of constant learning. There has to be constant learning happening in our life. So Narad Muni, he said, I passed through many flourishing metropolises, towns, villages, animal farms, mines, agricultural lands, valleys, flower gardens, nursery gardens, natural forests. And he was saying, traveling length and breadth of the world. 5-year-old boy. No passport, no visa, no money. And Narad Muni, in one of these purports, Prabhupada writes a fantastic thing, you know, which really inspired me a lot in my journey of life. Prabhupada, in one of the purports, he says that for one to experience Krishna, one should travel the world. And he says, you should travel the world depending on Krishna. We travel the world depending on our currencies. If you don't have a card, if you don't have a credit card, if you don't have enough currency, who's going to take the risk of traveling the world? You know, when I was reading this section of the Bhagavatam many years back, and you know, I happened to start traveling internationally for the first time at that point. You know? And I just read this section very fresh in my mind, you know. So I was really excited thinking that like Narad Muni, I'm going to travel the world. Maybe I'll experience Krishna somehow, So I landed in Mauritius. That was one of my first, maybe second international travel at that point. This was way back in 2011, 12, maybe 2013. I'm not sure. Yeah, no, it was 2013, definitely 13 or 14. So when I landed there in Mauritius, so now obviously I didn't have any money. I didn't have any money whatsoever. And I had my passport, obviously, and there was no need of a visa also because there was a visa on entry there. So I just landed there. My phone, I didn't have, international roaming in it. And I had no idea how to contact the person. That devotee told me, I'll come there. And I just thought that he'll come. In my naivety, I just landed there. I walked out. Nobody there. I was not able to find anyone there. So I'm wondering, what do I do? I wanted to make a phone call. There's nothing, no currency in my phone to make a phone call. I had his number, obviously, but I didn't know how to contact him. And I didn't have money also. So I was trying to see if there is a phone booth somewhere, to see if I can make a phone call. I didn't have currency to put on the phone booth to make a phone call. And suddenly I remembered this verse and this particular section of Narada Muni. And I said, wow, this is Krishna giving me an opportunity to experience for a little what Narada Muni experienced for so many years. So I said, let me just depend on Krishna and see what happens. And I just sat there, just praying, meditating. And then after some time, this devotee comes. He said, "Oh, Prabhuji, I forgot. I thought you're coming tomorrow." He somehow missed the whole thing, and fortunately, he came after some time. And but that little half an hour, 1 hour, whatever time, I had no idea what to do in a foreign country, and I had no idea where to go and what to do. That's when I experienced the full import of this particular section of Narad Muni. And this is so powerful. When we learn to depend on Krishna, we experience Krishna. So Narada Muni traveled so much the length and breadth of the world. And then at some point, while traveling, Narada Muni felt tired. He said he was both tired bodily and mentally. And he was thirsty and hungry. So he had a bath in a river, you know, and he drank water from that river. And by contacting the water, he became free from the exhaustion. And then he sat under the shadow of a banyan tree, and he began to meditate on the super soul within his heart. And he did exactly what the Bhaktivedanta taught him. He was there for 4 months at the Bhaktivedantas. He learned a little bit of meditation. He learned a little bit of a devotion from the Bhaktivedantas. And whatever he learned from them, he practiced it. That's what learning is about. That's what the whole idea of study is about. Study is not just about you hear it once and forget it, or read it once and forget it. Study is a continuous learning. Study is where you continuously upgrade yourself, and you not only read and hear, but you actually realize and practice. And as Narada Muni did this, he experienced the fifth thing that is needed to experience success in life, which is called trust. Trust, knowing whom to depend on. Trust on the Supreme Lord and His presence in our life. So, quest for guidance, urgency in emergency, exploring, and taking risks. The fourth is study and a continuous learning, and the fifth thing is trust, knowing when to depend and whom to depend. When Narada Muni sat there meditating on the Supreme Lord within his own heart, suddenly tears started rolling down his eyes. And without delay, the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna appeared in his heart. He said, he appeared in the lotus of his heart. And he said, I had such an experience, enlivened. Every inch of my body was enlivened, Narada Muni felt. And and he could see himself and the Lord both with his eyes closed, basically. The Atma and the Paramatma, essentially. And that transcendental form of the Lord was so amazing, so divine. He said, that moment, I realized This is all I need in life. This is all I need in life. Every single devotee, every single person who comes to Krishna consciousness has one moment like that. And I can bet you all of you sitting here have had at least one such moment in your life. It may be just one single moment. And that's that one moment that hooks you in the process of Krishna consciousness. It might be during a kirtan. It might be during the middle of a lecture. It might be when you're having a darshan. It might be at some point in your spiritual journey in the beginning days. It happens. Every single one of us have experienced it. And that's why we're all here. Narada Muni experienced that so powerfully in his life. And he felt so blissful. And suddenly, the form of the Lord disappeared. So Narada Muni opened his eye. He was like shocked that form of the Lord disappeared. And he began to intensely meditate so that he gets that form again. Nothing. No matter how much he meditated, he just couldn't get that form again. And then he heard a voice. The voice of the Lord told him, that experience that you had, you're not going to get it again. You'll have to now struggle for it. You'll have to put effort for it. You'll have to really prepare yourself, qualify yourself for it. That what you got is an advertisement. Krishna gives all of us a trailer, a little bit of taste. And that one little taste that you experience is so amazing, so powerful, that for the rest of your life, you will hanker for that one experience. But you won't get it so soon. Because that was free. That was, you were not qualified for it. It was grace. Just because you got it doesn't mean you deserve it. You know? Never Krishna says, now that you actually want it, work for it. So Narada Muni, Krishna tells Narada Muni, now work for it. I gave you the sample. You won't get it back in this lifetime. Work hard and qualify yourself for it. And then Narada Muni spent the rest of his life intensely pursuing this aspiration. And it is said at the end of his life, Narada Muni, he at some point during his whole journey, during his life, he dropped and he died. And it, he didn't make a big deal out of it, that I died in this particular way, and that he didn't even talk about where he died and how he died and all. That's not relevant. That's not important. But as soon as he died, he got absorbed into the creation. And then many, many lakhs of years later, when Brahma was again creating this universe, at that time, Narada Muni appears as a son of Brahma. And then when he appears as a son of Brahma, he doesn't appear with an ordinary body. He appears with a celestial body, with a divine body. And with this experience, Narada Muni is sharing with Vyasadeva. He tells Vyasadeva, when I saw the Lord, I experienced satisfaction. The level of satisfaction I've never experienced in my life. And when the Lord disappeared, I experienced dissatisfaction. The level of dissatisfaction I've never experienced in my life. And he tells him, right now you're experiencing dissatisfaction because the Lord has disappeared from your life. If you want the Lord back, again, do something that is purely focused on the Lord. And that's the inspiration that Narada Muni gives to Vyasadeva. And then Narada Muni, he tells Vyasadeva his conviction. Sakridyar darshitam rupam etat kamaya te naga mat kama sanake sadhu sarvan munchati hrichyan. So he says, O virtuous one. So, of course, sorry, the Lord is telling Narada Muni this, that this is Narada Muni's realization on seeing the Lord. Okay. The Lord is telling him, you have once seen me in person. And this will just increase your desire for me. Because the more you hanker for me, the more you'll be freed from material desires. See, all of us in our lives, at some point of the time or the other, we've experienced a little bit of Krishna and we experience a lot of problems. So many people complain, why Krishna does this to us? We're so much after him, so much mad about him. He should just give himself, right? He does that purposely. Because the more you miss him, the more you will want him. And the more you will want him, the more you'll get purified, basically. And the more you will not want the iPhones and the, PUBGs and the stuff of this world, basically. So this hankering is created by Krishna in our hearts. And Narada Muni, he tells Vyasdev as a conclusion of all his years of experience, he tells Vyasdev this beautiful verse. He said, Etadhi atura chittanam matra sparshe chayamuhu Bhavasindu plavo drishto haricharyanu varnanam. So, Narada Muni is telling Vyasdev as a conclusion. He says, it is personally experienced by me that those who always are full of cares and anxieties due to desiring contact with the senses of the objects can cross the ocean of nescience on a most sublime boat. The constant chanting of the transcendental activities of the Lord, the personality of Godhead. So he says, the only thing that I can tell you based on my life's experience and my conviction is that if there is anything in this world that is worth doing, worth focusing on, it is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, and it is focusing on the Supreme Lord. He says, I see only one boat. The chanting of the holy names of Hari is that boat which can help you cross over this ocean of dissatisfaction that you are experiencing. Narada Muni concludes his teachings to Vyasdev, and Vyasdev totally gets it. And from then, he begins to write the Srimad Bhagavatam. To help us understand what Narada Muni just said, I'm going to tell you all a beautiful story and something very, very nice. This is like the icing on the cake. Before we end this week, here is a very beautiful meditation for you all to carry with you all. One time, Yamunacharya, who was a very exalted devotee, he had a conversation with the Lord. See, these great devotees could converse with the Lord, So he was talking to the Lord and he was telling the Lord, oh my Lord, you are my only wealth. He was praying like that, he was offering prayers to the Lord. The Lord was in a little, jovial mood. He said, how can I be your wealth? The Lord is asking Yamunacharya, you're telling I am your wealth. He's saying, how can I be your wealth? So the Lord is telling Yamunacharya, if you want to buy land, you have to pay money, isn't it? So if you have me, you say I am your only wealth, can you get land? So Yamunacharya laughs and tells him, my dear Lord, don't you know this much? He said, you are saying with wealth you can buy land. But you got land from Bali Maharaj free with your feet, isn't it? So he says that with your feet only, you managed to get all the three worlds. Not only, 3 steps of land, he conquered the entire universe practically. All the land in the world belongs to, Vamanadeva now, isn't it? So he says, so Yamunacharya says, according to me, your feet is the highest wealth. Because if someone has your feet, he can buy all the land in the world. Because in 3 steps of land with your feet, you bought the whole universe. The Lord says, fine, that's okay. For buying land, what you're saying might be okay. But what about emergencies? If you are in emergency, only money helps, right? So this type of money which helps during emergency is called apad dhanam. So the Lord says, you should save money for emergencies, How can I replace that wealth, So Yamunacharya says, my dear Lord, your feet is enough. And he tells him, anyone taking shelter of your feet is assured of overcoming all emergencies. So just by having money, can you be assured that you come out of problem? How much money people had in Corona time? Can they come out of problems? So just by having money doesn't mean will be able to overcome emergencies. So he said, in fact, Yamunacharya says, money can bring many problems. Money itself can bring many emergencies in life. You know? So he says, there are two qualities of wealth. Yamunacharya is telling the Lord. The first quality of the wealth is that wealth should help you buy anything that you desire. And the second quality of wealth is that wealth should be able to help you deal with difficulties and emergencies. And he says, these two qualities can only be seen in one wealth, which is your two lotus feet. And then he says, the one that holds these two lotus feet is Mahalakshmi. Lakshmi Devi, he holds the two lotus feet of the Lord, right? We are all wanting Lakshmi. And what is Lakshmi holding? Lakshmi is holding the feet of the Lord. So Yamunacharya says, I have decided I am only going to hold your feet. That's all. I don't need any more wealth in this world. So in this context, and of course, because Lakshmi is holding the feet of the Lord, she is called Dhanya. One of the names of Lakshmi is Dhanya. And what is the Dhana that Lakshmi is holding? The lotus feet of the Lord. So Yamunacharya is saying, I don't want anything else. So Narada Muni, in that same mood, is telling Vyasadev, you have tried to hold so many other things in this world. Now forget everything else and just take hold of this one lotus feet of the Lord, the holy names of the Lord, and completely immerse yourself in the pastimes of the Lord. That will make you satisfied. So with this, let us conclude today's session and understand that if we seek satisfaction in our lives, we must go deeper. We must build our personal connection with the Lord. It is not going to come with externals. It is not going to come with superficial connections. It is going to come only when we decide to go deeper. So I must congratulate all of you all. In spite of rains, in spite of waterlogging, in spite of so many issues, and all the people that are online here, in spite of all the technical problems, in spite of all the all the mess that I am making with the technology, you all are still holding on to it. I must congratulate all of you all for really holding on to these classes. And I can assure you, we will all go on this journey together. And 100%, the idea is going to be every single session, we're going to try to go deeper and focus on the essence of what Srimad Bhagavatam is trying to teach us in a way that we can apply in our personal lives. Thank you very much for being here. And we will not take questions today. We probably can take questions online if anybody has any questions. But and of course, if we can discuss, while we are having prasad now. Also, what I want to tell all of you is that I don't know if all of you all are in the Telegram group also. Are you all there? So my suggestion is I would highly recommend all of you all to also join the Telegram group, because the reason is that in that Telegram group, I'm going to open up the Telegram group for question answers at the end of the session. So the whole of Friday, I'm going to answer questions, So Thursday we do the hearing, Shravanam, and then you get to do Mananam all of Friday, and then you ask questions on Friday. And I'll keep answering the questions on Friday. That's the whole thought process, basically. And also, I'm doing a morning program on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 5:30 to 7 a.m. in the morning, where I chant 8 rounds with everybody, whoever is attending the morning program. We do Sishtashtamam prayers. And in addition to that, we recite verses of Bhagavad Gita and, prayers of different, great devotees. And I tell one story. So every Monday, 5:30 to 7. Sharp start at 5:30, sharp end at 7 a.m. on Telegram in that group. So just be there in that group and you can benefit from these sessions also. And it'll take, the whole, so it's like we're trying to do like a, overall rehauling of spiritual journey for all of us, not just once a week, but it's a continuous learning. Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Oh, no. Morning program is just online because, obviously, who will go where, right? It's a little complicated. If you want to come offline, come to the temple. Yeah. The YouTube recordings of every single session will be put on the Telegram group and on all the groups that will be available. All these recordings, every single session will be recorded and will be available with us. Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.